I certainly don't have to remind you that we are living in weird and scary times, but I am anyway, so bear with me. We can't ignore what is happening around us, nor should we try, because our lives, and especially those of any future generations, depend on us being aware and taking action. There is no point in sugarcoating hard facts. We are facing an out-of-control pandemic, a pending economic collapse, and a constitutional crisis that threatens chaos and even fascism. And as each day passes, we reach more tipping points in the relentless global countdown of climate change. And though it's too late to stop these crises altogether, most of us have a good idea about how they could be mitigated. A Green New Deal, Medicare for all, a massive bailout to ordinary people rather than corporations. Great ideas, and let's keep organizing for them. But politics and economics, as usual, haven't and won't deliver them. No matter how inspiring a vision of a future we'd like our children to grow into, we have yet to figure out how to overcome politics and economics as usual. Even if we might be feeling a bit nostalgic for our old normal, knowing things can get even worse, the old normal is what led to this mess. Hopefully, we can vote out the worst of our politicians, but systemic transformation is not found on a ballot. Thinking about the implications of this is akin to considering our own individual mortality. It can be spiritually and practically useful to think about death sometimes, but it's not something most of us care to dwell on for very long. After all, right now we are alive. We have things to do. And though our own pursuits might seem petty compared to global crises, they are not petty to us. We are still raising children and caring for elderly parents. We are still trying to keep a roof over our heads and food on the table. We are still needing to exercise and learn new skills. All this takes hard work. And now we have to do it while socially isolated, deprived of many of our usual supports and pleasures. I'm frustrated by misleaders who refuse to use power for the common good. I'm frustrated by people who lack the social responsibility to do easy, simple things like wearing a mask that could shorten the time we have to endure this pandemic. Frustration may be too mild a word for how I feel about the ultimate threats, but it's a pretty accurate word for how I'm feeling about daily life. I miss being able to hang out freely with my family and friends. I miss going to demonstrations. I miss going to church. I even miss meetings that are not on Zoom. I am going to miss serving as your minister. These are activities that make my life meaningful and fulfilling. What do you miss? Many of my usual pleasures have seldom been available to the global majority. Losing these pleasures may be a first world problem, and I am aware their cumulative effect may have contributed to problems we face. Nonetheless, I miss being able to eat out in restaurants. I miss being able to attend concerts and see movies in theaters. I miss being able to take vacations that require air travel and hotel rooms. I miss the ultimate privilege of living in the illusion that I have significant control over my future. What pleasures do you miss? The dictionary defines frustration as, quote, the feeling of being upset or annoyed, especially because of inability to change or achieve something, unquote. I am annoyed that there are so many relatively minor things I can't change or achieve during the pandemic. And that's on top of being truly upset by all our global crises. Frustration is often seen as a weakness. We have a cultural myth that it is wrong to be annoyed by obstacles. Instead, we are supposed to welcome them as learning opportunities and tests of our strengths and morality. Oh no, not another learning experience. Haven't you had enough of these already? Especially if you're my age. My strengths and morality have been tested frequently. Sometimes I even passed the test. As a humanist, my theology says there is no ultimate judgment. Thus, I don't need more obstacles to overcome to prove that I am worthy of being saved. And I don't think any of you do either. What we are called to do is what makes our lives meaningful. And when we pursue our callings, obstacles are inevitable. For sure, overcoming them can be personally satisfying. Sometimes it does make us better at what we want to do. If you are lucky enough to achieve a worthy goal without many obstacles, you might conclude that you are less worthy of praise. But does it tarnish the goal itself? As a humanist, my morality is about achieving positive results for humanity, which, by the way, means protecting the interdependent web of existence, since we can't achieve lasting positive results otherwise. I honor hard work and the pain of sacrifice, but they are not goals in and of themselves. If world peace were easy, would it be less valuable? At times, frustration, like any other emotion, may lead to harmful action. Sometimes expressing it may occur as trivial or entitled. But emotions are not right or wrong. What matters is what we choose to do with them. The pandemic has created a lot of new obstacles and is aggravating many we had before. Thus, I imagine most of us are feeling a higher level of frustration than we are used to. That's okay. What do we choose to do with it? This brings me to our opening words this morning. Frustration is the compost from which the mushrooms of creativity grow. Think about that. Compost is decay, the breaking down of dead matter. Perhaps our old callings and pleasures are merely dormant, hibernating like bears in winter. When the pandemic is over, some of them are likely to emerge again, for better or worse. Nonetheless, a lot of what gave us meaning and pleasure before the pandemic is dead to us in this moment and may remain dead in the future. So if we are to keep having meaning and pleasure in our lives, we have to keep cultivating new meanings and new pleasures. If frustration is compost, then it too must be the breaking down of what is left after the pleasures and meanings we once enjoyed have been taken away. Yes, the old normal is dead and decaying. The fruit is now spoiled, and not being able to eat it is frustrating. But we make compost to ensure that other plants will grow and bear fruit. Compost is a statement that we aren't giving up on life. Compost itself is creative. but the mushrooms grow because we created the necessary conditions. What would happen if we had no frustration with the current pandemic? We'd be left with delusions of ignorance and denial, and with magical thinking defying common sense. Or we'd be resigned to passive acceptance of all that is painful and destructive, maybe believing our refusal to act is some form of enlightenment. Now, lots of obstacles are so minor that acceptance or denial is helpful. It frees up needed energy for that which is more important. And serenity in the face of that which truly cannot be changed is a foundation of spiritual practice. Yet, think about the person who refuses to wear a mask. They are refusing to be frustrated enough with the spread of the virus to do a simple thing that would help stop it. Their ignorance or denial or resignation is putting you at risk. They are serene while causing illness, death, and economic hardship. So thank your higher power then that you are frustrated enough to wear your mask, to endure endless meetings on Zoom, to risk speaking up for Black lives and other essential causes. Because you are a gardener. Driven by your frustration, you will keep growing new ways to be fulfilled, ways that may be more responsible and thoughtful, ways that might even help humanity survive. The Buddhist theologian Johanna Macy speaks of holy anger, a spiritual power inspiring great and courageous acts that might transform our global future. Holy frustration is what will allow us to cope with the everyday aggravations that get in the way of expressing holy anger. May we be inspired by both.